Hey guys, Joe Brunsman back with another quick video for you. So I have placed, I want to say almost 400 different cyber policies for companies across the nation in various different industries, endorsements to full-on standalone policies up to very high limits with all kinds of add-ons and extra stuff put on there. But one of the most common questions I get is, hey, what's actually in a cyber policy? I get that question a lot from first-time buyers. Where people have actually started digging into it and they can't really figure out what's going on. So that is the topic of the video today. So a quick legal disclaimer, I am not providing official insurance or legal advice. I'm not your insurance broker. And the following is for general information purposes only. If you really want to get on one-on-one and really delve into this with me, my contact information is later. But for the purpose of this presentation, this is just general information only. If you really want to dig into this yourself, this is actually a link where you can download a copy of my book for free. So it deals all with cyber insurance compliance, declarations of coverage, applications, all the various regulations, all the bad things that can happen to you, et cetera, inside of my book there. All right, so before we answer the question of what's in a cyber policy, we need to figure out who actually needs a cyber policy. So, of course, CPAs, lawyers, architects, engineers, consultants, they definitely need a cyber policy, as would really manufacturers, restaurants, retailers, etc. So generally, it's going to be just about any business that works with computers. You're going to need to have some sort of cyber policy. Now, whether that's a standalone policy or that's an endorsement on one of your existing policies, if you need a big policy or a small policy, that's really a topic for a different video, and really you need a one-on-one conversation to actually kind of break that down. But this is going to be really for the standalone policies. Hey, what's inside of those? All right, what does a cyber policy do? I get that question a lot. It's kind of a complex topic. Keep in mind that there's actually no such thing as a cyber policy. And that may sound really strange, but a cyber policy or cyber insurance, as it were, that's not a legal term. It's not really even an insurance term. It's just this idea that society has placed upon the following. And that's, it deals with some sort of security event, so ransomware, data breach, etc., that occurs inside of a business's computer system. Now, obviously, it's a little more complex than that, but that's kind of like an overall umbrella on what you could think actually applies to these policies. So in other words, it's supposed to save you post bad guy. Now, this may also kind of sound strange to you. Yes, I think a cyber insurance policy is probably one of the first things you should buy as a company contemplating cybersecurity, but you need to think of it as like the last thing you're going to use. Why is that? It's really that last layer of defense in depth. Everything else has failed. All of your controls have been bypassed. Somebody clicked on the wrong thing. That's really when this insurance is supposed to come into play. Now, I always have to add this in there. This is the commission caution, and this is really the nuts and bolts on why you as a business owner or an InfoSec professional really needs to understand what's going on here. And it really just kind of, unfortunately, boils down to money for the majority of people. So let's say you're $1 million grossing business. Or even under that, you could get a cyber policy, realistically, a pretty good one, for actually less than $1,000. So what does that break down to? Well, the actual agency or the brokerage that you buy this from, they could make about 15% of that. So that's about $150 a year before Uncle Sam takes his cut. And then from there, the actual agent or the broker that's working for that insurance agency or brokerage, he may end up making as little as, say, $40 to $100 per year. So when you think about how complex a cyber policy is, the fact that they're all different, they're all always changing, not a lot of economic incentive there for the average insurance guy to actually know what he's selling. So that's why it really behooves you as the business owner or, say, the IT professional, whatever your position there may be, if you're looking at these policies, you actually need to understand, unfortunately, probably more than the insurance guy does. So once again, caution for you. My last count, there's almost 200 different cyber policies out there. Every policy is going to be different. Every carrier is going to have a different policy. This isn't like your standard line of insurance where kind of the general terms have been ironed out, the case law has been ironed out. We really know what's going on. This is entirely different. And really kind of add insult to injury there. Every policy is super complex. So you could have over 100 pages of very dense technical and legal writing that you would have to comb through. So once again, kind of the caution here is try and work with a specialist if that's even available for you. So let's really dig into the meat of the question here, and that was, what is actually in a cyber policy? So I've tried to break this down as eloquently as possible, really into 4 buckets for you, so that you can contemplate what this is. So of course, when you buy a cyber policy, you don't necessarily need to be an expert on that, but even after you get it, it's nice to actually generally understand kind of what's in there, because one, you have to play by the rules, right? The cyber policy is a legal contract. And 2, you don't want to be incurring costs for something that you actually have insurance for, but you just forgot to report it. So that's why this is actually really important for you. Here's kind of the 4 buckets: data breach, ransomware, payment fraud, and then the often missing category. So let's talk about bucket 1 there, that data breach. So that could be dealing with PII, PHI, or PCI. If you don't know what those are, kind of broad brush here. PII, let's say social security numbers. PHI, a healthcare record. PCI, credit card or payment card information. How's that policy? What should it provide to you? Once again, assuming you have the right policy. So obviously an attorney to help you navigate through this entire process. Why is that important? Well, depending upon your business and where you're located, you may end up dealing with all 50 different state and territory breach notification laws, as well as various other regulatory issues, once again, kind of depending upon your business. So they're there to help you really navigate that. Forensics, that helps you determine the scope and nature of the breach, hopefully remove whatever offending piece of malware is in your system. Hacker damage, get you back up to speed if something got corrupted. Notification letters to your clients, nobody wants to do that. But going back to that forensics, let's say you're only legally obligated to provide notice to, say, half your clients as opposed to 100% of your clients. Forensics will help you determine that, give that legitimate basis to the various regulators you're going to have to deal with in all the different states and territories, and go from there. Credit monitoring, not necessarily always legally required, but I would say that society in general now just generally expects that you're going to give them credit monitoring. Could get quite expensive. Of course, business interruption if you're down during the breach, and the various regulatory fines and penalties. That last topic there, regulatory fines and penalties, I think I'm going to make an entirely separate video actually just on that, on if that's insurable, how it's insurable, and when it's not. But once again, broad brush, regulatory fines and penalties where insurable by law. Ransomware, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. So you have ransomware, once again, attorney to assist you with the process, the forensics, determine the scope and nature of the breach, hopefully help you remove that offending piece of malware. The actual ransomware payment, so now this is really a balance between the ethical and monetary business decision here. Should you pay the ransom, should you not? There's varying schools of thoughts on there, but it's nice to at least have that option. Hacker damage, they could end up damaging your network. You have to unencrypt various files, et cetera, et cetera. Business interruption, that's a big one with the ransomware. Generally, the business will go down to some degree with those encrypted files. So you want to make sure you can recoup the costs of that lost business while you're going on there. And then, of course, you'll see there notifications and credit monitoring. So the deep, dark secret in the InfoSec world is that often cyber criminals will actually steal your client data before they hit you with ransomware. So, part of this is going to be really caught up in the forensics, but don't just assume that because you have ransomware that you are out of the woods. You really have to be very particular about that. It's no longer as simple as, hey, we got ransomware, let's just restore the backups and move about our day. You really need to go through the actual process there. All right, payment fraud, another landmine for companies. So what do I mean by payment fraud? Somehow money went out the door that wasn't supposed to go out the door. So now your business or your clients are missing money. If you're going to try and insure for this, you really need to be particular, and here's why. You'll see some some phrases on the screen there. Just because you think your cyber policy might mean something is covered doesn't mean that it actually is covered. So you really have to dig in, work with an expert there, kind of figure out, okay, what are the rules we're supposed to play by inside of this policy? In some circumstances, a policy will say, hey, we're only going to cover you if you followed all the internal controls that you listed on the application. In other circumstances, it'll say, we're only going to cover you if various, say, stakeholders, often C-suite executives, actually transfer that money. In many instances, the policy will be very particular, could only cover you if the money went out the door in a certain way. So you want to try and avoid stuff like that, but you really need to be quite particular. If you do end up with a policy like that, in some circumstances, maybe that's the best you can get. You want to make sure that you're actually playing by the rules there, or you could end up, accidentally sending money out the door, getting duped, is quite common these days, and not having insurance for that. So be very, very careful in that regard. All right, bucket number 4 is going to be the often missing category. And this is often missing because these are constantly changing and varied amongst the market. Some of these, it could save your business from bankruptcy, or it could be an entire waste of money. It really depends on your particular circumstance, but it's nice to at least know that these exist. These are some of them. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these, but the gist of it is, let's talk about cryptojacking. What is cryptojacking? Somebody is using your business system, your computer system, to mine cryptocurrency, often after working hours. As the price of various cryptocurrencies go up, instances of cryptojacking go up. That could lead to a massive increase in your electricity bill. That's why a lot of crypto miners are actually up by the Arctic Circle to take advantage of that heat dissipation. So could be an option for you there. Bricking, system failure, business interruption. Let's say your system goes down not because of a breach, but simply because, the IT department, something went haywire there, and your system's not operating, and you're losing money because of that. Policy could respond. Dependent business interruption, dependent system failure. That's going to be really important if you're relying on some outside company to help you generate revenue. So, for example, your cloud provider goes down. Could be because of a hack, or it could be because of, once again, just some sort of misconfiguration. And if you can't generate revenue while that company you're dependent upon is down, a policy could potentially respond to that. Other things, PCI DSS, that has to do with payment card industry data security standards, all the various regulatory fines, penalties. If you've ever had your credit card or debit card compromised, and then magically the very next day you've got overnight shipping and a new card, well, someone's paying for that. So that's going to be inside of there. Media liability, voluntary shutdown. Let's talk about business interruption and, bodily injury and property damage, both first and third party. So who could possibly need bodily injury and property damage for both first parties? So that would be like yourself and your staff, and third party, which would be various, say, passersby or clients that are at your premises there. Great example would be manufacturers. So let's say you have an industrial control system and some hacker gets into that, starts playing around. There's a great example in my book of a smelting plant in Germany where a hacker did about $1 million worth of damage. Could definitely be something that, if you're on the manufacturing side, crucial that you have that. Very, very useful. You want to make sure you go digging around for that. All right, once again, this is a link to my book, cplbrokers.com/book2, if you want to dig into this topic a little deeper. This is my email address if you want to reach out to me directly and you're interested. And with that, stay safe.